Welcome to the Izzy Chinche Show.
You know, I was getting like all this praise around my performance as an athlete, but that was it. I didn't even think outside of me, outside of me as an athlete. Like there was no other thought. It was just like, oh, I'm doing good.
I'm so excited you're able to tune in. Join me as I interview athletes, entrepreneurs, and high achievers. I also share much about my life struggles, trials, and successes in hopes to inspire you. I intend for this show to be one of the greatest shows of all time, so your listening and support means the most to me. My goal is to help inspire as many people as possible, so please share with a friend if you enjoy just one thing from today's episode. Together, we can help more people grow. Let's get started. So today I'm interviewing Alexa, my new friend Alexa, who has been in the fitness industry for 5 years and has recently gotten promoted to Director of Programming at the Be Kind company, which is focused on health and wellness for students and young professionals. So welcome, Alexa.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and tell you more about my time in the fitness industry and then the work I do with Be Kind.
Yes. Okay, well, let's start with your time in the fitness industry. Let's get into that. I want to hear about that.
Yeah.
I got into that.
So I first got into that when I was getting my undergraduate degree. I'm from Missouri originally, and I went to Truman State University. I got kind of pulled into the rec center there where I worked as someone who kind of oversaw the weight room.
Did you get pulled in because you were doing fitness and is that why?
So that's kind of, I wanted a job.
Oh, okay.
And I was on campus.
Okay, you're a college student, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that was just kind of my first choice. But from there, I had a really great mentor within that space, and he got me involved in personal training. I got my ACE PT certification. I started teaching group fitness classes, and then I was eventually the assistant director for the facility. So I oversaw all of the staff, the personal trainers, the weight room instructors, group fitness instructors, that kind of thing.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it all got started.
Yeah.
From there, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, honestly. I knew I wanted to do something in fitness, but wasn't sure how to make a career out of it.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to get my master's degree at Belmont University, where I was the graduate assistant of personal training, and I oversaw the PT department there at Belmont.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that. The physical, the little physical therapy, or just the
personal
training. Mm-hmm. Oh, I was like, wait.
I know, when I say PT,
I was like, wait a second. Wow.
Not a physical therapist.
Yeah. I was like, doesn't that require a lot more school?
Yes, exactly.
Well? Okay. So you were there for 2 years, and then you got out of that and jumped. Or your internship was at Be Kind, and then you took over.
Yes, correct. So my master's degree was 2 years, and during that time I was running the PT department. From there, the founder and CEO of Be Kind actually found my profile on the rec center website. He was looking for coaches, so he reached out to me just through a blind email, and that's kind of how we first connected.
Wow, I love that. I just realized I didn't put airplane mode on, so I'm going to do that because if someone FaceTimes me,
oh no,
the whole thing's gone. So I'm just
the whole recording.
Yes, well, it just stops, and I will not know if it cuts out because it's on silent. So I'm like, okay, we can't have that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what was running the program? What did that look like? Were you working with athletes all the time from the school, or
so for at Belmont, the personal training department? Yeah. So within the rec center, it's split into different departments. So you have group fitness, intramurals. There's a marketing department, and there's a graduate assistant who runs each of those different departments.
Oh.
There's only three now full-time staff, professional staff members within the rec center at Belmont.
Yeah.
So the graduate assistants really run their own departments, and then we answer to the assistant director and director.
Okay.
So I oversaw a staff of, I think we got up to about 25 trainers or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I did all of the hiring, training, onboarding for that. I had a few student coordinators who worked under me that I oversaw who really helped manage the team, set up clients and trainers. But I was really just kind of the manager of that department, overseeing all of the staff, making sure everything kept running.
Yes. Okay. Cool. All right. And then you got the email from Be Kind, and it was like, I'm doing this, jump in right away, or what was the interaction there?
Well, at that point in my life, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and so I was taking on all of these different opportunities. I worked at a few cycle studios, teaching classes, working the front desk. I had an internship with Ironman at one point. But when I got this email, this opportunity, I thought it sounded perfect.
Yeah.
It had always been my dream to run my own kind of fitness studio or work at a startup. My whole family is like entrepreneurs.
Yes, we love that.
Yeah. So it seemed like kind of like a perfect fit.
Okay.
So I connected with the founder, and I was first brought on as like a coach and then a marketing intern as well.
And then
from there I stuck with the company, and I was marketing coordinator for a while, and then once I graduated with my master's, I was director of now marketing and programming.
That's so cool. So for those of us who don't know what holistic health is, can you give like a really good definition of like what that really entails?
Yeah.
Because that's the meat of it, right?
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
So holistic health is the idea that health isn't just limited to, working out, eating healthy, sleeping right. That's what most people think of when they think of health and wellness.
Yes.
But that is very much like physical health.
Yeah.
Which is definitely an important part. But we've also got mental health in there. And then we've also got social and emotional health. Mm-hmm. We kind of group social and emotional health together because they're very similar. It's all about relationships with others, having a community that you're a part of. And then all three of those work together and really contribute to your overall health and well-being. So holistic health is the idea that you've got to make sure all of those things are in check. So you could be someone who's super physically healthy, maybe a very successful athlete, but if you can't manage the stresses of everyday life and it's interfering with your ability to perform or compete, then you're not really healthy.
Wow.
You can go the opposite way too. You might be somebody who journals regularly, sees a therapist, completely in check with your mental health, but if you're not also, sleeping enough at night or working out regularly, your physical health isn't in order. So holistic health is the idea that you're taking care of all of those different parts of your health and well-being.
I love that, and I think that needs to be talked about more, especially for high-performing athletes.
Yeah.
Because there's that point where it's like, I'm super fit, and I eat really healthy, and maybe I do sleep the way that I need to sleep, but my mental state is like, what am I doing? I'm losing it all the time. I feel like I went through that. So,
and then when you pull in a social and emotional health, maybe you are this really high-performing athlete, but you're super isolated from everybody, and you don't have someone you can trust and talk to.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, your social and emotional health might not be in check.
That's so awesome. Okay. Wow. I love that. Yeah. Get some water. You just had to go off there, but that was very insightful. I like that. So what have you learned? Like, what's one of the biggest thing that you've learned? Because you primarily work with kids at this point. Yes. Okay. So what have you learned from that, or one of like three big things?
Three big things. Well, during my time in fitness, I've done personal training with all different ages. And right now with Be Kind, we are primarily focused on students. We're in elementary, middle, and high schools.
Yeah.
We do a little bit with college-age students, but most of our programming is within the schools themselves. So typically ages, I would say maybe like 10 to 16 or so is what we're seeing.
Where they're very malleable. They're still going to
exactly.
listen to
like
what you're saying.
Yeah. Catch them before it's too late. But
yeah.
I mean, I would say really what I've learned is just reinforcing the importance of this material that we're teaching them and educating them on.
Yeah.
The programming that we do, we combine some like group exercise, fitness, really just movement with the kids. And then we do coach guided group discussions on different health and wellness topics.
All right.
So we'll be talking with these middle school students and they don't know what the food groups are. And
if
they don't know what the food groups are, they definitely don't know what balanced eating means. And
what are the food groups?
So we got grains, we got proteins, we got fruits and veggies, we've got dairy, and then we've also got sweets there at the top.
Okay, yeah.
So one of the things that I love teaching kids is that balanced eating means you eat all of the food groups, and that includes sweets. That includes your favorite things too. So it's not going to be a healthy diet if you are only focusing on whole grains and veggies and fruits, and you're not ever allowing yourself to indulge in your favorite foods.
Okay.
So teaching them that balanced eating is all of those things. I mean, it's something that I had to learn like the hard way growing up.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that a lot of people need to learn before they get to that point, especially with, you know, like social media and having like fitfluencers and what I eat in a day, those kinds of videos.
Yeah, one almond and
exactly. So
two grapes.
Being able to help these students get a more positive and balanced mindset around eating.
Okay. So what was your experience with that?
So when I was in high school, I was a very like high performing athlete. I was a runner. I did cross country. It was actually probably 8th grade or so where I was really hitting my stride. I was doing super great, but I got super caught up in just the health side of things, healthy eating, counting calories, making sure portion sizes were right.
In 8th grade, wow.
Moving into high school, and it wasn't ever restriction based. It was all just like, I need to like optimize my health. I need to make sure that I'm eating the right things and, you know, very fruits, veggies, lean proteins, that kind of thing. And what it did is it did the opposite of increase my performance. It caused me to like lose too much weight, and then I wasn't performing as well, and so then I was very anxious and isolated from having kind of I didn't really know my identity anymore because I was this
the identity here.
Yeah, exactly. And I always felt like so strong and accomplished through my running. Yeah. And so once I was seeing that kind of like backtrack, I was like, well, I don't really have anything anymore.
Wow.
So it took until I ended up like going to therapy, was on medication, and then my senior year, I started really trying to embrace that holistic health mindset.
Wow. Okay.
I was,
great.
I mean, and that really helped kickstart my performance again. Yeah. My senior year, I was like back on top of it and stuff. I gained all the way back that I needed to.
Good. Kind of a quick turnaround.
Yes, it was. I mean, it was a rough couple years there. But once, you know, it kind of clicked and I was like, okay, in order to actually elevate my performance and in order to actually feel better, like I need to... My thing was ice cream. In order to like gain weight, I would get a pint of Ben & Jerry's. I'd sit and watch TV with my family and just put away the ice cream. And that just elevated my performance so much.
I love that.
And since then, I've just really been really passionate about, you know, educating others on the importance of like the balanced eating and still having your favorite things in your diet. And it's just such a trap that especially, you know, teenage girls fall into. And I was right at that age, and I just want to help these people that we are teaching now to not fall into that same trap.
That's wonderful. Yeah, because you go to that extreme and it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And then what I've seen is either then those kids end up gaining a lot of weight. They get kicked out of like the workout field in general because they tried to, because now they're binging, and then, or exactly what you're talking about is just declining health and then trying to rebuild from that, which is very tough, as you know.
And from that experience, I mean, it was holistic health for me too. I needed to make sure my mental health was okay, and I got that in check through like therapy and medication, and then refocusing on my physical health by, you know, changing my diet to eat more and indulge more in, you know, the things that I had been cutting out because I thought it would negatively affect my performance. And then as I, you know, started to feel better, I refound like that community within my team and my friends. And
what were like the key switches that you made that got you back on track? Just like eating good, eating more?
That was definitely a big part of it. That was a big part of it for sure. And I had a teenage brother at the time too. So, I mean, his support, especially in high school, was really important. He was also on the team with me.
Oh, cool.
So I don't think it's something that he necessarily knew, but having him as kind of that support, he knew what I was going through at home, was always super helpful.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so there's that, and then also being able to like have a conversation like with my parents. That was
talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. That was a huge step because I mean, parents didn't really know anything about like mental health and everything that I was going through until I was going through it. So being able to have those conversations with them and realize that they were there for me and have them, you know, kind of be aware of what I was going through also really helped me like kind of make that shift and move in a more positive direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's so cool that you were able to still salvage like the end of your running career, basically.
Yeah.
Or do you still run and everything?
I still run for fun.
Yeah,
I'm technically training for a marathon right now.
Oh, wow.
But I've been training for it for 2 years, so
okay.
maybe it'll actually happen this time. I am signed up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was never huge into the competition part of it, which is, counterintuitive considering that I was actually good at it, but I just never liked the pressure.
Okay.
That was something that I never really, reconciled with myself. I did it because I enjoyed the community, the being on the team, the running itself really helped me manage like anxiety. But when it got to college, I just wanted to do it for fun, and I knew that's what was going to be best for me.
That's good for you making that decision.
Yeah.
I think a lot of athletes don't make that decision, and because they have that drive, they're just gonna keep doing it, but it's like at what cost? And a lot of time it's their mental health. I see it all the time. Like, I did it. I'm like guilty as charged. Like, I want to win so bad, I'm gonna sacrifice my happiness, like my health, to do that. So I think that's so great that you're stepping into that that space and being able to like help people in that. Do you see a difference in like it's more in girls or more in boys when you're working in schools? Like, what group do you see it?
Yeah, it really depends on the topic that we're talking about. We break it down into physical, mental, social, and emotional. Yeah. And the boys definitely struggle more with social and emotional, and we'll have lessons where we're talking about identifying our feelings, and they can't come up with anything besides like, oh, I feel happy today.
And I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly. And then with girls, it honestly at that age really depends on the kind of outside influences. So if we have girls whose parents or especially mothers are have maybe negative body image, then that can really rub off on them. Whereas if we have girls whose parents are maybe into fitness or into sports or have brothers who are into sports, then they have a more kind of positive mindset around like, oh, I want to get strong, and like, can you teach me how to do this exercise? And that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay. So it's definitely depends a lot on their external environment, and then the topic as well.
And how do you feel? I mean, you were raised running and track, but do you feel, you said not in the mental health area, your parents didn't talk much about it, but like physical health was talked about often growing up, and that or is that something you and your brother are like, we're good at this, we're going?
I've literally been a runner for as long as I can remember.
Okay, yeah.
My dad and I used to run down the street to break time and then walk back home. And I think I did my first 8K, which is 5 miles, when I was 8 years old, I think. There's a picture of me in like turquoise Converse.
You ran it in Converse?
I was 8.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
But I won an award for being the youngest participant, and ran it with my grandfather. So.
So it's in the family.
Yes, it is in the family.
Running is in the family. Okay.
My grandfather actually. He still runs on occasion. He has a home down in Florida, and they'll go running on the beach. So it's definitely something that's kind of been passed down through the generations. Yeah. But it's always been something that's really close to my heart, for sure.
That's so cool. So with the kids or adults that you work with, do you guys incorporate running? Like, what does a class look like? What does a class session look like?
Yeah. So the classes, as far as running goes, depending on the age group, especially elementary students, they just want to run. They love running. They're like, can we go run last? So I'm like, go for it. Get some of that energy out. But when it comes to like the structured class portion, so I always start with, some stretching. I do a little bit of a yoga flow. A lot of them are actually familiar with the concept of yoga and stretching, which was another thing that was really surprising to me when we first got started. It's great, of course. But we do a little bit of yoga just to get warmed up. And then for the workout portion itself, we use resistance bands, just because they are super easy to use. You can adjust how easy or difficult it is. Safe for the kids.
easy to transport.
Yeah, exactly. Kids think they're fun because they're different colors, and when we're not looking, they can sling them at each other.
Yeah.
So we do, I typically do like 2 different sets of exercises.
Okay.
We definitely mix it up, upper body, lower body, core, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we try to do a little bit of like fun cardio stuff. We'll have them like hop back and forth over the resistance band, and then do some, whether it's like walkouts or we'll have them do shoulder presses.
Yeah.
Really just anything to get them moving.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's great to, one of my favorite things is when we have these elementary schoolers. There's actually these 2 brothers that I'm thinking of off the top of my head, but after we do like anything like upper body, and they're like 8 years old, they'll go over each other and like flex and show their arm muscles. I'm like, you got it, guys. Yeah. So we really incorporate.
Like, it's working.
Exactly. So we really incorporate like full body exercises, and then I'm like educational about it too. So I'm like, this is working your arm muscles. These are called your biceps. These are also really good for, you want to get nice and strong. If you like pickle, you can open the pickle jar. That kind of thing. Yeah. So just kind of making it relevant for them. Yeah. And making sure they enjoy it as well. So after the workout portion, we do cool down with a little bit more yoga, and then we do, we call it like our reflection time. So we have them lay down on the mats. We do like a full body release thing. I have them like, flex all the muscles in their hands and then breathe out and relax the muscles. Then we just move through the body. And then they have about 2 minutes of just reflection, where I just prompt them to like reflect on their workout, their day, really just trying to bring the energy back down before the group discussion.
Okay. And then group discussion, those are topics like you said, food groups and stuff like that.
They each have a journal that they use, and we try to keep it pretty student-led, just because we want to know like what they don't know, what they're curious about. But we have like discussion prompts, and we'll really just kind of talk as a group about the topic for the day. That
is really cool. And you meet with them like weekly and stuff. And then,
yeah.
Man, that is so cool. Yeah. I love that you're doing that. Especially for, I'm assuming many of those kids are not in competitive sports, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because they're the ones, and there's such a need for that, because it's like either you're now it's like you're in competitive sports or you're out.
Exactly.
There's seriously no in between.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, they're not doing that. You're going to be a doctor or something. Like, focus on school now. Or, so that is so cool that you're doing that, because I feel that there really is a need for there's a gap there. And are you working in high schools much yet, or is that
So we'll be starting with our first high schools this fall.
Okay.
And that'll be an interesting kind of change of pace, just because there's a lot more independence that comes with high schoolers. They can choose whether or not to stay after school, whereas with the elementary and middle schoolers, we're like one of several options within like that after school time.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely excited to work with the older age groups. We are implementing one of our new programs, which is called Building Balanced Athletes, which is focused specifically towards athletes, and then can even be used in like a team setting.
Okay.
So
tell me about that a little bit. I'm excited to hear about
that. Our most popular program is called Building Healthy Habits.
Right.
And that's the one that we've been running. It's all about, physical, mental, social, emotional health. Pretty basics. The Building Balanced Athletes is tailored towards athletes and teams. And we go more in depth into how holistic health relates to those individuals. So we'll talk about sport and identity some. You're super passionate about.
Yes.
We'll talk about like team communication and cohesion. We'll talk about, I'm trying to think of some of the other topics.
Those are huge. There's so many sublets of those topics. Like, you could go into one of those for a long time.
I know. We're going to do like the importance of like rest and recovery, avoiding burnout, fueling for performance. Okay. So really the whole gamut. It's still very holistic health based. We'll hit all the different sections, but tailoring it specifically to athletes will kind of have its own unique kind of draw to the program.
That is really needed. Amazing. So what are one of the tips that you would have for like avoiding burnout? Like, I'm putting you on the spot, but
let me think. So when it comes to avoiding burnout, I think that a lot of it is super preventative. It's making sure that you are paying attention to your mental, social, emotional health as well, and not as an afternote. one thing that I really like to talk about, especially when it comes to rest and recovery, is thinking of recovery as part of your training. So a lot of the times it's just an afterthought. It's like, oh, I'm not training today. There's no practice, no workout. Your training for that day is the rest and recovery.
Yeah.
And sure, like sometimes that's sitting on the couch watching Netflix, but that's also
it just keeps you in the mindset though.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You're still in it. Like, yes, I like that.
And then there's like active recovery that you work in there. So it's, making sure that you're still like stretching, walking, getting some sort of movement in, just to like keep your muscles warm, muscles going. I just think that's a part of training that's always been overlooked.
Yeah.
And including that within your programming can help to prevent burnout.
Yeah, that is so great. And I'm like, as you're saying that, I'm realizing even like my high school team that I coach, we do not, and pretty much every team that I've been a part of, we don't do stretching at the end of the practice. We don't cool down. Like, you'll do a little bit of a cool down. That is so different. And I'm trying to remember, like, on most of my teams, we never stretched at the end of practice. I mean, in college, it was just like, you call it at the end, because usually you're scrimmaging at the very end. You're trying to go till the last couple minutes of training. And then you're missing probably the most important part. And, like, I'm so glad you're saying this, because I'm going to go coach today and be like, hey, we're stretching. And if for whatever reason we can't, it's still your responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, get these stretches in because it needs to be the whole piece. The whole puzzle.
And then when you're stretching and working on flexibility, that helps prevent injury. And so it's really just all.
No, it's just like, as you're saying it, it's so funny to me, because I'm like, I literally don't think, even like every now and then, but really it's like, all right, we got off the field, like, bring it in. And it's like, I mean, and they tell you, like, it's your job to go to the recovery room and like figure it out. But like, if that was organized, I think it would be very beneficial, especially for my high school students. I'm like, they're gonna get in the car and then I have no idea what they're doing for the rest of the night. Like, they're done.
I mean, one thing that we do, that I do in all of our programming, and I'll do it randomly just when we're stretching with the kids, but making sure that they can all like touch their toes. Like, some of these elementary school kids can't touch their toes, and I'm like, you need to stretch.
Like, never. And do you think that comes from just like video games, like inside time, screen, like they're just not moving?
I think it's
much?
just lack of activity, and then not having that emphasis on the importance of I mean, flexibility and mobility is so overlooked. But I read something, and I don't even know what the statistic is, but the relatedness of like touching your toes to longevity and overall health.
You're like,
and it's like so simple, but so many people can't do it. So.
But you think about people who like develop these like back issues or whatever when they're like 35, 40. It's like, you're not that old, but how are you living your life the past 20 years? Like, you were stretching almost never. So it does make me feel happy that you said a lot of kids knew what yoga was. Downward dog.
Exactly.
Probably from like TikTok, honestly, like seeing stuff
that,
like that.
I mean, they've done a really good job of including a variety of different like programming with bringing like different vendors into the schools. So some of them have had exposure to like a person who came in and taught yoga one day.
That's really cool.
Which, I love to see, because it's just starting to implement those habits and that knowledge early on. But I mean, definitely.
Are these more? Are you working more? Is this like in inner city schools, or are these more out, or is it? Do you have a mix of both there, or?
Currently we're within Metro National Public Schools, which is typically schools within within the city. So, I mean, us being able to go into the schools is just so important for like accessibility and affordability for those families.
Because the families don't pay, correct?
Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah. And then especially in that sense, I feel like if those kids don't get picked up by the school teams, like they're at like, it's a lifestyle that's like the opposite direction. It's almost like, you don't get picked, and now it's like, I hate that. I don't want to, like, that's where I got left out. So the feeling is, I want to be away from whatever it is that made me feel bad about myself. So now, screw fitness, screw sports. I'm not an athlete, and then I see it though. So I'm like, gosh, like even the kids that I train, I'm like, man, I just don't want them head in that direction. Like, this is good. You're doing good. Like, the whole picture. Like, are you happy even doing what you're doing? And I just think it's so good that you're talking about it and you're making an impact there, because I mean, it just makes me keep on thinking about like my team that I'm coaching now. Like, what do I need to switch for them so that they can see, you know, like the bigger picture of, you know, your actual health, your entire life. Like, so what's one thing that you wish you would have known sooner about holistic health and just like collectively? Like, what's one thing you're like, man, I just wish I would have got that one thing down. I feel like you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, so one of the things that we really try to educate these students on when we're talking about mental health in particular is stigma, and what stigma is, the stigma surrounding mental health, why it's there, and how we can break that down. I feel like it's gotten a lot more, or quite a bit destigmatized over the past 2 years, just because it's become so prevalent. But especially when I was growing up, and one thing that I wish I'd known earlier was that there doesn't need to be that stigma surrounding it. Like, so many people just avoid talking about it, avoid the subject. It was like taboo there for a while. But knowing the importance of talking about it and making it more part of like daily conversation just helps so many more people. Like, if I felt like I was okay to talk about it when I was younger, then I feel like I would have been able to get the help that I needed so much sooner. And so teaching these students that it is okay to talk about that kind of thing, I just feel like it's going to be so helpful in making sure that they don't kind of go down the same path.
Just shutting down and not talking. I agree that I see it's talked about a lot more on kids, and I also see it to the point where it's actually has a negative effect, because now they've latched onto this new identity of, oh, I'm this way, I'm broken in this way. And it's like, no, you're a human having a human experience that a lot of us have. Like, a lot of us have dealt with that. Do you have any thoughts on that? Of just, you know, going too far, and then it's like, this wasn't that big of an issue, but now it is, because you've identified with, I'm someone who has, you know, major anxiety around food. And it was like, yeah, maybe you did, but now it's like you've identified as, you know, that kind of person.
I can't say that I've seen that directly, just with the amount of time that we've been with the students. There hasn't really been that development. But if that were to happen, I feel like a lot of it is just, again, like education on the topics, knowing that they're not alone, being in a supportive environment where they can talk about the things that they're going to, but then they're also reminded that there's more to them. And maybe they are struggling with anxiety or something, but there are other parts of them that maybe if they don't feel like strong mentally, there's other parts of them that can be strong. And those things can all work together to improve their overall well-being.
I love that. So, and I know I emailed you this question. If there is an athlete who right now feels they're physically healthy and also, you know, maybe eating really well and sleeping really well, but they don't feel mentally healthy, like they're just not well, but they're performing well. Like, what is like some advice that you would give right there? Like, what's something that...
I mean, I feel like the first step is acknowledging that they're feeling that way. And so what I would recommend is that they find someone that they can trust, whether it's a parent, trusted adult, even a teammate or a close friend, that they can kind of express what they're feeling to. Because once you do actually acknowledge that, I mean, that's the first step. And once you do that, you're able to continue to find ways in which you can kind of improve. If that makes sense. I just feel like the first step is like acknowledgement and recognition. And I mean, doing it to yourself is one thing, but letting somebody else know can help them help you as well and offer support for you as you are trying to kind of get back on track.
Okay. So acknowledge it. Talk about it.
That's the first step. Exactly.
Talk about it. What about checking in? Because, I mean, I look back at, you know, when I was performing and I was performing very well and, you know, I was getting like all this praise around my performance as an athlete, but that was it. And I didn't even know, I didn't even think outside of me, like outside of me as an athlete. Like there was no other thought. It was just like, oh, I'm doing good at soccer right now, then I'm doing good in my life. And that was it. Like there was nothing else. I was like, if soccer's going good, my life is going good. Like that was it. And like, what are some things that like you think athletes should just know about, like to help like check in with yourself? Like I don't, does that make sense?
No, I feel like part of it is education of the coaches and parents, because I mean, if the coaches and parents are encouraging that type of behavior, like I mean, depending on the age, that can affect a lot. But educating the adults on, hey, you should also be checking in and making sure, like, are they super stressed about school? Are they stressed about, their friends? What else is kind of going on in their life, because they do have this identity outside of sport. And if all you do is
talk about their sport, how was practice today? How did you do? Are you feeling ready for the game this weekend or whatever?
As far as athletes trying to what was the original question?
Like, what is something, like, if they're listening to this right now and they're like, oh my gosh, that's me. What's something that they could do, I guess, but you kind of answered in your first question, just talk to someone about it.
And if they're not ready to do that, I mean, even writing it all out, journaling, just trying to kind of take that first step to change their perspective. I was never a journaler, but when I was running, I always thought through things in my head. Like that was my time when I really like kind of broke things down, solved problems. And if your sport is something that helps you do that, like do that. It's a good outlet.
I definitely feel that would have been pivotal for me to realize that sooner. And the way that I had to realize that was by getting injured. And because there was no other way for me to see myself outside of being a soccer player. That was my entire identity, and I wasn't able to even, I was like, comprehend, like, no, I am a good writer, I'm a good speaker, like, focus on these other things. And I feel like I was so stubborn in that identity that I really think God was like, we're gonna smack you so you can see it, like, or the universe, whatever. It was like, I had 2 ACL tears. I had 3 major injuries by the time I was 18 years old. Like I had been out for basically 5 years. And I still was like, I'm a soccer player. That's, but because that was my identity and I was out for so much, I was always faced with depression and just like frustration and real sorrow, because I was like, I can't be in the one space that I shine. I can't be in the one space that I thrive. Like this is where I receive all my praise from like everyone. And I was homeschooled, so I was pretty sheltered, and I didn't really know how to read till I was like 10 years old. So there was a big gap. So school was not going to be the thing that I was going to shine in. So I was like, it is sports. Like I'm going to just over and over and overachieve. But facing those injuries, actually, like when I look back at this, like my life, I realized that as I was having those injuries, I was creating my identity. Like, who was I? Like outside of that, like what are the things that I was going to get into? Like what were the things that I was going to learn? And entrepreneurship was definitely one of those. I was like, I like business. Like I want to make a lot of money. Like I want to speak. I want to do a podcast. Like those are those things that I was able to develop. And even right now, like I'm dealing with an injury, and it is so frustrating to me. I'm like, how am I in this position again? Like we have been here, and now I'm back in this position with another injury. But I realize it's just like, it's an opportunity for me to really grow in another space. Like, all right, you're injured, so who are you outside of that? But it's so tough. It's so tough because I could see your building balanced athletes program could be a great space for like injured athletes. Like they're not in their sport right now. Like that'd be such a good way for them to like get plugged in and be like, hey, you're still in it, and we're gonna work on like this whole other thing right now. Like this is still school for you. You're still learning.
It's still part of your training.
Part of your training. So I feel like injured athletes. Like that would be huge for them, because if I had something that I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I'm a person outside of soccer. What?
Sure.
So,
and then just having that additional like health and wellness based community. I mean, like you said, it's for people that aren't athletes because they still need that, but then it can also be for people who maybe aren't like currently connected with their team, whether it's like a sport or an injury or something else. So.
And not feeling like, oh, because I'm injured, I'm useless. But there's that feeling, like I think especially for star players, and if you have a scholarship on the line, like I remember being like 16 and I had like ripped my whole quad in half. So I was like out. It was really bad. And then I tore my ACL. So then I had to end up like, I was going to go play at a school, and I was, you know, now it wasn't going to happen. I was just like, wow, I'm just really not worth that like $120,000 worth of scholarship money. And I remember just like feeling like I'm actually not worth the money anymore because of this injury. And I was like, I was taking that way too seriously. Like, relax. You know, like you're going to get back, but that's how I internalized it. Because, you know, when you're 16, 17 years old, like there's only so much you can see, and it feels like it hits everything, and like you got nothing else. So
it's hard in the moment to see the bigger picture.
I know, I do that every day. I'm like, this is the worst. No, it's not. Walk it off, you're gonna be fine. I think I had one more question that I really wanted to ask. This is I think I asked all my main ones, and then I was just like, that, you know, one piece of advice you'd give to an athlete, you know, that's feeling that way, and just talk about it, and if you're not ready to talk about it, journal about it.
Yeah, talk about it with yourself.
Yeah, talk about it with yourself. But yes. And then what is the biggest thing like you wish you would have learned sooner? Like the number one thing that you wish?
I would say it was the stigma surrounding mental health, and that it doesn't need to be that way. That it is okay to talk about those kinds of things, talk about how you're feeling, talk about your mental state, and that doing so will not only help you, but it'll also help others maybe realize like if they need help or not, and could help them down the road as well.
And then I think like what you're talking about, talk about it. So what how can people find you? How can people find you and get connected and get you to go work in the school or the Be Kind company? What's the best way to make that happen?
So our website is thebekindcompany.com.
How's it spelled? Because
it's spelled BKYND.
There you go.
It's actually thebekindco.com. But through the website, you can kind of check out the different services that we offer. We do have our in-school programming, but we also have things like personal training, group fitness classes, online programs that you can check out as well. If you are a school like teacher or administrator or a parent who wants to see this in your school, there are instructions on there to reach out to our Be Kind founders and CEO. His name is Bradley Davis, and connect with him in order to learn more about the programs that we offer.
And if they're not in the Nashville area, they can still reach out and
you can still definitely reach out. We're definitely looking to expand. And so always looking for new schools that we can connect with, and also just more individuals that we can reach out to and teach about.
What does the remote work look like?
Our online platform just recently launched. We have just a couple digital programs up right now. But that's something that we're really working on growing. And then digital personal training would be organized through like Zoom calls, and then we would either meet on Zoom for like a session, or I would send you your programming to complete on your own, and then we'd have weekly check-ins. So if you're not in the Nashville area, there's still definitely ways to get plugged in. We also have a lot of resources available. We have a blog. We have additional like groups, communities online, and forums where we post additional resources. So
good.
We're also on social media, all the platforms at the Be Kind Co.
At the Be Kind Co. Kind with a Y.
BKYND.
I know. When I was looking that up, I was like, wait, how do I know it has a Y in it? And
it's creative.
Like, no, I love it. And the CEO, he found that name? Or,
yes.
Yeah.
So Bradley was the one that came up with the name. He is the founder and CEO of the company. I think he was really just looking for like an innovative, fun, new way to, get across positive messaging.
Yeah.
Keep it as one word. So that's kind of what he came up with.
I love it. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
Of course.
doing
Thank
that.
you for having me.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about anything else or?
I think we kind of hit everything.
Yeah.
Good asking questions.
Yeah. Perfect.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm so grateful for your support. I'm already excited for the next show. Turn on notifications and be on the lookout for my next episode. Also, please share the show with anyone you feel like might benefit from listening to. Thank you for all your love and support. I will see you soon.